And joining us to break this down is our correspondent, Ariel Levin-Waldman. So Ariel, break down those financial crimes that we're referring to here.
It's actually an interesting note that was just mentioned, that it was almost 20% of financial crime could be linked to organized crime. That's not just the number, because that number's tripled in the space of just 1 year as the organized crime sector has grown largely in the Arab sectors of Israel's economy. They've been able to get into those sectors because there's a lack of financial services in them that makes it very attractive for somebody to involve themselves or to make those connections. What we're looking at is a combination of different crimes, though. There's the very traditional forms of organized crime when it comes down to finance. You have money laundering, you have fraud, you have all of the digital and financial transactions that go into it. And of course, one of the big ones was binary and forex scams. Israel is known for a huge thriving industry in the binary and forex scams. It's more or less penny stock gambling that most people never see a return on, but can lose tens of thousands of dollars of their own money. And certainly the state has tried for years to crack down on binary and forex scams. Everyone knows it's a problem, but what we didn't really know until now is how much the organized crime sector was involved in what's effectively unregulated market manipulation to turn a buck.
Right, so you guys just saw those percentages there. Who is carrying these crimes out, and how are they able to do this? How are they able to commit this type of fraud?
So this is the big thing you have to remember. When you say organized crime, most people think of mafias. You have people in suits in shadowy rooms talking about whose turf it is to operate their businesses where, and protection rackets and the like. That's not the case here in Israel. When we're talking about organized crime, 14.9% of the organized crime here in Israel is directly related to terrorism. I can't think of any other nation on earth where when you're talking about financial crimes, 15% is directly in the hands of terror organizations. That's a pretty big one. We mentioned the how just moments ago, though. We're talking about the money laundering. We're talking about traditional scam artistry to raise money. That's really new is the use of Bitcoin in the transaction. One of the things that's been mentioned in this report is that cryptocurrency is being used in the financing of these groups, because you have a somewhat undetectable anonymous currency that could be moved instantaneously around the world. It's a very attractive medium if you're trying to move around ill-gotten gains.
So, my question then is, why have we seen such an uptick in this method of making money for these organized crime groups and terrorist groups?
So the big one is, why did we see this uptick over the last year, and why specifically are we seeing such a huge uptick in the Arab sector of Israel's economy? One of the big ones is the famous line, "It's the economy." Around the world, we've seen a massive downturn in the economy. We've seen massive spikes in inflation. We have seen poverty running rampant. If you're in that situation and you are making maybe 1/5 of what somebody in the traditional Israeli economic sector is making, suddenly somebody's saying you can make a huge amount of cash if you're willing to get your hands a little dirty. Very attractive option. That's one of the big ones. The other one is simply the tools themselves are becoming more and more accessible. More and more people are getting experience with digital currencies. More and more people are getting experience with the binary and forex market. It's easier, it's a lower bar, and with the profits involved, why wouldn't you if you're poor?
All right, Ariel. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining us. Really, fascinating breakdown of what is going on right now in Israel. This report was certainly very alarming, and I wonder now how the government's going to crack down on it.